All right, so welcome to Reading Workshop. And today our learning objective is as a reader, I can read and gather information about mythological characters. Just keep in mind that we are still reading Greek myths. Let's talk about the flow of the session. So we'll be reviewing the Greek gods and goddesses milestone assessment. We'll talk about the steps to get it done. We'll look at the rubric and the deadline. We will then see a model of the completed task. We will look at what's in your folder, and we will set a reading goal. Task description. So in this assignment, you're going to be reading about the 12 most well-known Greek gods and goddesses. There is the reading material for each one included. You will be gathering information about the events that happened in the myth and the characters that were in the myth as well. And then you'll be using that information to form an analysis about their character traits. So what words best describe their personality or the way they are as a character. Here we have an image of what one of the slides look like, and you'll be completing 6 of these slides. So for each of the gods that you select, the gods or goddesses that you select, you'll be identifying the god by putting the name of their god in the first section. Once you have done that, you will then add some details about the god, like their title, or what they rule over, or what their symbol is. Then you will describe their relationship with the other gods and gods. How do they interact? How do they get along? How do they feel about each other? That's information that would go into that box. Then you are going to think about how is it that they interact with humans? What is their relationship with humans? Do they have a positive relationship, a negative relationship? Is it neutral? And you would add that information to that box. Finally, you would think about a word that describes the characteristics of the god or the goddesses. Maybe the character is kind-hearted, and you would base that decision on the things that the character says, the thoughts that the character has, or the actions that the character carries out. Just remember, you'll be selecting 6 of the 12 gods in order to get this assignment completely done. Now, what are some of the work that we've done so far? If we think back to last week, we started out by reading and gathering information about the main characters and the main events. So characters like Gaia and Cronus came up, and Zeus. And then we learned also about what happened with Gaia and Uranus, what happened with Rhea and Cronus, and what happened with Zeus, and some other small instances in between. So we have a lot of contextual knowledge. We have the background information. We have the content. And then we started some work around classifying our characters. So we figured out if they were naughty, if they were nice, or if they were neutral. And then we started to think about what word best suits their character. And we tried to give an example from the text to prove our idea, or to support our idea is a better word. This is not going to be a very demanding task of you, but you do have to do or pay attention to 3 things. One is time. You will be choosing from 12 gods and reading about 6. So you will have to commit some time to getting through them, and you'll have to figure out how to organize your time wisely. As you're using your time wisely, you want to focus. This focus is going to look different based on if you love reading or if you don't love reading. If you love reading, it might be easier for you to focus because you'll get through the story maybe with a breeze. You just have to remember that you're not just reading for the enjoyment of it, although they are enjoyable. You are also reading in order to gather the details. So you do have to focus on the details as you're reading. If you're not a fan of reading, I suggest that you take a 15-minute break between each myth. You don't want to get overwhelmed with the task and give up too easily, so it's better to pace yourself and take small breaks to refresh your brain. This would be a really good time to use the Pomodoro method. If you haven't tried it, this might be a chance to try it out. And in terms of energy, it's not a very difficult task, but you will have to use your analysis muscles. So everything is not going to be in the text for you to take it out directly. You will have to put two and two together to form a new idea. Here is our rubric. I'm not going to go through all of the points of the rubric, but I do want to tell you what a star assignment would look like and what a poorly done assignment will look like. And because you have the rubric, you can look back at it to see what the scales in between are. So in order to get top marks on this assignment, you will read about 6 Greek gods and goddesses, and you will complete all of the other boxes with accurate information, and in a way that is really neatly done. If you don't do all of those and you decide to set the standard really low for yourself, then you'll probably end up reading about 1 or 2 of the Greek myths. And although you will do the boxes, you won't be as thorough and as accurate in your information and details. And there'll be signs that you're still struggling with grammar and punctuation and some of the other mechanical things that we'll consider working on. And there's always an opportunity to come to office hours if you need some extra help. Now let's look at my model. You'll see this page. It will have space for your name, and then your completed organized page will look like this. So we read about Zeus, and one of the things that we learned as we read about Zeus was that he is the Lord of the universe, and his symbol is the lightning bolt. So right there I have stated his title and his rulership and his symbol. So you want to do the same thing for the gods that you choose. When we talk about his relationship with his siblings or the other Greek gods and goddesses, we know that he maintained order among the Greek gods and goddesses, especially when they were having violent fights. So we can say that he was kind of like the peacemaker. When it comes to Zeus with humans, we know that Zeus often fell in love with mortal women, or rather I know that because I've read farther ahead. So I know that he fell in love with mortal women, and he had many earthly sons and daughters who eventually became demigods. And if we had to talk about a character trait for Zeus, one might consider the idea that Zeus can be intimidating. He uses his lightning bolts, and when he does that, all of his siblings tremble, and they have to fall in line. That is really where the analytical part really comes in. Because with the character traits, it's not going to say Zeus was intimidating. You will have to look at his actions and the way other characters responded to him to really figure out what was a good character trait. And you'll be doing that for all of the gods and goddesses that you study. So in your folder, you'll have your myths, right? 12 copies of the myths, or 1 copy of each myth. You'll have a blank slideshow presentation. On page 8 of your slideshow, you'll find the rubric, and on page 9, you will find the model that I just went over in the work in the mini lesson. I hope that you really have fun doing this assignment, and I hope that you learn a lot about the Greek gods and goddesses as I have learned, and we will resume for the next portion of the lesson. Good luck.